I am Rakhi Bose, Assistant Editor with Outlook, and I bring to you excerpts from our latest issue, Women of the World Unite. In mapping women's political journey, Snigdhendu Bhattacharya writes about how India's women-centric policies were conceived mostly under global influence until the rising women voter turnout in the country changed that trend. When the Election Commission of India's analysis of the 2019 Lok Sabha elections revealed 67.18% voter turnout among women as opposed to the 67.1% voter turnout among men, Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra hailed it as a historic moment. Historic it was indeed. In the 1962 Lok Sabha elections, for every 1,000 men who cast their votes, there were only 675 women who voted. The 1967 election recorded a quick rise in women's participation in voting. There were 766 women voters for every 1,000 men who voted that year. However, the numbers stagnated and took another 47 years for the ratio to rise to 929 women voters per 1,000 men voters, which was recorded in 2019. This figure puts the women voters' turnout above men's, as the electoral rolls had only 926 women per 1,000 men. In a country where the sex ratio of 940 females per 1,000 males as per the 2011 census stands significantly lower than the global average of 984 females per 1,000 males, owing largely to discriminatory social practices, more women than men participating in electoral democracy is indeed a great feat. Nevertheless, only 9.1% of the candidates and 14.36% of the elected MPs were women. This too was the result of a significant improvement that happened largely over the past decade, as women's participation in both voting and candidature remained mostly stagnant from the time of the Constituent Assembly of 1946 to the very first years of the new century. This stagnation is rather strange considering that the Congress, the principal political party in colonial India, had its first woman president in Annie Besant in 1917, a year before the United Kingdom allowed limited women's suffrage. The newly formed Madras and Bombay legislative assemblies granted voting rights to women in 1921, followed by United Provinces in 1923. At a time when a number of European countries, including France, Italy, Greece, Belgium, and Bulgaria, were yet to allow women to vote. It has nevertheless been a prolonged battle. Almost 50 years ago, in 1974, a report titled Towards Equality, prepared by a committee on the status of women constituted by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's government at the urging of the United Nations, pointed out that Gandhi's premiership since 1966 was being cited as an example of women's hold on India's political sphere. The committee, 9 of its 10 members were women, disagreed with the notion, highlighted with data how women's participation in positions of political authority remained dismal, and recommended 30% reservations of seats in the legislative bodies for women. Such reservation will alter the very character of our legislature and will compel the political parties to change their strategies and tactics and induce them to give women their due, said the report of the committee headed by Phul Renu Guha, Congress Rajya Sabha member from West Bengal, who had served as the Minister of State for Social Welfare during 1967 and 70. Till the 1970s, India had very few women politicians who rose to prominence. Chief Ministers Sucheta Kripalani in Uttar Pradesh in the 1960s, Nandini Satpathy in Odisha, and Shashikala Kakodkar in Goa in the 1970s being among them. Till the 1970s, India had very few women politicians who rose to prominence. Chief Minister Sucheta Kripalani in Uttar Pradesh in the 1960s, Nandini Satpathy in Odisha, and Shashikala Kakodkar in Goa in the 1970s being among them. Guha was one of the only 13 women to have got a ministerial berth in the union government in the first 2 decades, and 11 of them were junior ministers. The 496-page report, that the first of its kind, serves as an important historical document in mapping how the status of women changed in India in different spheres, including politics. Among the first direct impacts of the report was the launch of the Integrated Child Development Scheme, which also focused on mothers in 1975, followed by three significant developments in 1976. The establishment of a Women's Welfare and Development Bureau. There was no ministry concerning women till 2005 within the Ministry of Social Welfare. The launch of a National Plan of Action and the passage of the Equal Remuneration Act, legalizing equal pay for women. Besides, the approach of the 5-year plans changed from a welfarist one to one aimed at development. But when it came to sharing political power, things did not move much. To read the full story and other stories from this issue, log on to www.outlook.com.